Okay guys, we're back. See if I can shade that a little bit. Does that count as foam? I don't care, I'm impatient. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So we're gonna add most of our flour. I went ahead and measured out, and that's just 3 cups in here. And that actually, probably only have another cup, maybe 2 in this bag. The drawback to being gluten-free is that you pay a lot more for a lot less when it comes to volume, especially on the flours and whatnot. And admittedly, I'm too lazy to buy all the different separate flours and the xanthan gum and all of that stuff to try to make my own as I need it. Okay, so adding in, but I think it's about 3/4 of that flour. Stirring it around. This is roughly 2 teaspoons. Toss that in. Ugh, I know this is really bad camera work. Sorry, guys. Very difficult to be your own camera person when you have a job that requires 2 hands. So that looks like a fairly sticky batter. So I'm going to add the rest of my flour until he says it's no longer sticky, and knead it. After it's done kneading, we'll let it rise for half an hour, and I think I'll come back after it's done its 30-minute rise, and I'll show you if it looks like normal spongy bread dough. Yeah, we'll take it from there. Okay guys, we are back after half an hour, 35 minutes actually, of rise time. I don't think that looks very risen to me. Still Play-Doh-y. So I think what I'm gonna do is go over here and grab my, you can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. Grab a loaf pan. And we're just gonna plop this. Oh, booger. I didn't set the oven. 375, I think. Okay, so I'm just gonna plop this in here next to, sort of press it down. This is gonna be interesting. And it's supposed to sit for another 30 minutes. This hasn't risen at all. There's no bounce in it at all. This might just wind up being like, what am I thinking? Like a crust or something? I don't know. It feels maybe a little bit fluffier than when I first mixed it. And there we go. It's probably about 2 inches thick or so. We'll see. Anyway, so I'm going to cover it there. I'm actually going to set it on top of my oven because it produces a lot of heat. And maybe that extra heat will help it do its thing and rise. Yeah, not really a lot of hope with this particular flour, so I'm glad I have the recipe. I don't even think I had enough flour to do a whole recipe on this particular one. So yeah, we'll see on that. I may have to scrap it, although, so I have that particular flour, and then I have this brand, gluten-free cafe all-purpose baking mix. So I'm going to try one of the breads with this flour, and then I've also ordered sorry, really bad photography. I'm new to this whole YouTubing and actually shooting things stuff. This organic einkorn flour. Einkorn is supposed to be never been hybridized, it's never been mucked with. And they say that people with gluten sensitivity, that this flour has fewer chromosomes than, it has like half the chromosomes, and it doesn't have all of the bits in it that make people gluten sensitive. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to tolerate that particular flour. Pardon me while I set my timer on my watch. Start. Okay. And, whoops, sorry. I'm going to try to turn you around. I don't know how to do that. Well, I'll play with it next time. So I'll try a loaf with the einkorn flour, as well as the other gluten-free flour that I have. Since it's a baking mix, it might rise better. And I'll do videos for each of those. And hopefully I strike gold with something, because I really want like a nice, yummy, crusty bread that's also gluten-free, that's not going to, you know, send me to the hospital. So the einkorn is kind of my last hope for that. So I'll come back in half an hour and we'll see if anything's happened. Hi everybody, so here are bread results. I skipped videoing the intermediate steps because it just got to be irritating. So this is the Pillsbury bread, or the Pillsbury flour, I suppose. You can see it rose just barely enough to crack the top. And well, it's dried out now, but the center was a little bit spongy, although that may have been because I didn't bake it for quite long enough. This, I broke off a piece. This is not edible. This is going in the trash. I went ahead and, I'm sure you can tell, I can't quite tell if this is done. Ooh, shaky hands, sorry about that. This is the gluten-free cafe, that stuff. And this is actually a baking flour. It rose a little bit. It was actually, it's still a little bit gritty, but it was spongier. This I accidentally left out all night and all day. So I don't know if that's going to affect the texture, taste, etc., etc. So this is it just finished baking. I think I'm going to put it in for a few more minutes, because if you can see in that crack, it doesn't really come up very well. It looks a little wet still. So I'll put it in for 5-10 minutes, more minutes, and see if that dries out a little bit. The thing you have to remember with gluten-free flours is how you put it in the pan, whatever texture it has, that's how it's going to bake. With regular gluten flour, things sort of settle and smooth out. But like if you're doing brownies or something, and the way you spoon it in, you've got peaks on it, those peaks will bake exactly as they are. So if you want a certain finished look, you have to do it while your dough is still wet. My next experiment is going to be with the einkorn flour, but all of my loaf pans are in use at the moment. So once I get this thrown out and washed up, I will try the einkorn flour. I'll probably do that tomorrow, since it's about 8 o'clock here now. And I will try to remember to video so that you guys can see what that process is. And praying fervently that the einkorn won't upset my gluten sensitivity. So, big fat fail. Possible fail? We'll see probably tomorrow. When I do the einkorn loaf, I will let you know how this one turned out. Alright, talk to you guys later. Hey everybody. Okay, here is the cafe gluten-free stuff. Hard as a rock on the top, kind of spongy on the bottom. It did leave the uncooked dough overnight and all the next day without being refrigerated. It was covered. I don't know if that had any effect. You can see it's a little spongier, so it's got a little bit of texture. It has an okay smell, but I tasted it and it's just awful. The texture is meh, and the flavor isn't very good. So this is another big fat fail. This is going in the trash. Sadly, that's a lot of flour, especially for gluten-free. So now we've done the einkorn. That's how much of that bag I used. I did change up the recipe. Instead of doing Brad's French bread recipe, I'm going to use his artisan no sugar bread. And again, I've cut the recipe in half. This is what it looks like in the bowl. I think I'm going to go ahead and transfer that into a different container though, because if it rises properly, it's going to probably burble out of that bowl, and then I'll have a big fat mess. But it feels like real, like normal gluten containing wheat flour. My theory is that because its genetic structure is different from modern wheat, and it's not been hybridized, and there's no junk in it, that as a gluten sensitive person, I shouldn't have any problems with it. I did try a non-GMO organic based sourdough bread during one of my last flares, and it gave me a little bit of GI discomfort, but it actually wasn't too bad. It didn't re-induce that flare, make the flare any worse. I was just uncomfortable for a day and a half or so. So based on that evidence, this, please God, won't bother me. I should be able to eat this. So I'm kind of excited to try that. Hopefully this will work. This will work out properly. So that has to rise for a couple of hours, and I will probably come back either after it's risen, or I'll just come back after it's baked, because we all kind of know the process of baking, and we don't need to see it every single time. Yeah, so I'll bring you back when it's done.